Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Citizen Sleeper. So, in the last episode, we basically found our ending. We managed to turn around and leave off of Erlin's Eye and go into the distance with the mercenary lady. I can't remember her name because it's been a while. So, now we're going to go ahead and check out something a little different this time. This will be Citizen Sleeper episode Flux. So, recently it was announced that there were going to be DLC for Citizen Sleeper, and it was going to be 3 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it says it right there in front of my face. But there were going to be 3 episodes, and they were going to be covering a little bit of the backstory about the area where Erlin's Eye is and going into the system. So the first one is going to be a refugee crisis, and we have to assist with this refugee flotilla. Now, I wasn't originally sure when this was going to take place, but I do see on here it says head to the Greenway to begin. So since we do have a completed save, I will go ahead and do that. I actually did start up another save, however, if it's still there. Yeah, I started the Machinist or Mechanist? Sure. But I started the Mechanist class, and because I didn't even know it existed until someone pointed it out, and thank you for that, by the way. But yeah, I did start this up in my spare time about a few weeks ago. I'm still relatively early into the game. I think I only made it to the point where the mercenary guy or the bounty hunter guy who was a drunk who pissed me off, I think I only made it to the point to where he actually starts taking money from you. And I made it to the second or third level in that, where we got to the point to where, you know, he lost his gun and so on and so forth, and he really didn't have a way to deal with you, and he was being hunted himself. So, from what I remember. So that's where I kind of left that off. I did plan on trying to go through some other endings in that, especially the one with Lemon Mina. I do want to actually complete one run with Lemon Mina and to see how that ending actually plays out. I did feel really bad for not doing that, but I will do that at some point. I also see this. Oh, okay, that's just a cycle. Which cycle we're actually at. So big difference there. Good 41 cycles different there. So I'm going to pick it up from the operator class. I think this one will be set right before we leave to go with, I cannot remember her name. And I swear I keep wanting to say Eshonai, and that's from Stormlight Archives. That is not from this. Even though I do think one of the new characters in the Citizen Sleeper Flux, my god. Flux DLC is named Eshe or something like that. So, anywho, let me stop babbling and let's jump into it. Now, I don't know what all is included in this. I'm assuming that it's just the episodic DLC stuff. They may have added some other new things in here. I do think they've kind of nerfed some of the things from before, because I do remember, for instance, using scrap to heal yourself. When I was playing in my other playthrough, I noticed that it doesn't seem like it's as strong as it once was. It seemed like before it was pretty OP, and you could pretty much live as long as you want to and do whatever you wanted as long as you want to. Whereas now, it seems like it's been nerfed a little bit, which I don't have a problem with at all. I'm perfectly fine with that. So, anywho, let us explore and see if we can find this. So give me a second to get my bearings straight. Descend the car. Yeah, let's descend to the rim, and we need to make it over to the Greenway. As you step onto the passageway, someone barrels into you from behind, sending you stumbling down the corridor. You turn to see an unfamiliar spacer laden with heavy gear. She steadies herself, staring you down as if daring you to respond. Oh, sorry. She adjusts a strap on her shoulder, holding up a hand in recognition before setting off down the corridor. I'm sorry for her. A second spacer smiles at you apologetically. She's on a mission, and when she's on a mission, they shrug. That seems almost kind of rude, so it's not a problem. They smile. You're sweet. Peek. Esh stands further down the corridor, glowing at her friend. She chops at the air, pointing down the corridor to whatever end she is rushing to. Peek raises their eyebrows at you. Eshe, please, do you want everyone in this station to hate us? Eshe hardens. They want to hate us, they can hate us. She drops her hip. I'm not exactly seeing much love as it is. We're lucky we got through before they set up that damn cordon. Cordon? Peak gestures in your direction. See, they don't even know what you're talking about. The station isn't Hawthorne. Not everyone has to follow some corporate protocol. Eshe sighs. I'm not saying they are part of the administration, she jerks her head in your direction, but I'm saying we need to get these supplies to the Briar before someone starts asking questions. The Briar? I kind of want to ask the Briar, but also just kind of don't want to pry and just kind of help out since I'm trying to be nice. Then again, I'm curious. The Briar? That's our ship, Peak explains. Peak, Eshe rolls her eyes. What are you doing? Peak ignores her. We are with the refugees, the ones Have an Edge have cordoned off from entering the station. Eshe interrupts. The ones that are being quarantined in makeshift vessels that barely made it to the Eye to begin with. The ones that your station's administrations have called an existential risk and are running out of supplies while their right to safety is being debated by people with no stake in their future. She quickly looks away, annoyed at her own outburst. Peak sighs. She's right. People are trapped out there, and they turn to Eshe. We understand that this is a big problem for the Eye. Hundreds of refugees and more ships turning up each cycle. They hold up a hand to stop Eshe, interrupting. But Eshe turns away, her burning anger a palpable force in the close quarters of the corridor. They need supplies, and after everything they've been through, the quarantine isn't helping. Peak finishes. That's terrible. Eshe looks back at you, her fierceness fading. Peak, please. Eshe gathers herself and the supplies. Eshe, we need help. Just like the refugees needed us, we need others too. They smile at her. Peak turns to you. Come find us. The climbing briar is docked at the broken spoke past the greenway in the waste. We have a good view of the cordon, though we're keeping our distance for now. Come help us. They squeeze your hand. Eshe turns to leave and Peak follows, waving goodbye. A moment later, Eshe shouts back down the corridor. Don't bother coming empty-handed. You want to help? Show us. Bring supplies or don't come at all. Jesus. And with that, they disappear around the corner. Eshe already picking up speed as Peak calls for her to slow down. A refugee flotilla? Where are they coming from and why now? Each time you think you begin to understand this place, something changes. And I like change. So, I do have some very lovely dice here. As far as supplies go, though, oh goodness. I have 21 scrap components. I only have one stabilizer. I have a ship mine core, some mushrooms. Okay, so definitely not a bad setup I have here. Now, I don't know how this is going to affect what I already had going on as far as the other ending goes, because I don't think there was a time limit on it. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think there was a time limit. Let's see. Okay, as far as this goes, I have pretty much everything +2 except for endure, so that should help me out quite a bit. Okay. Climbing Briar, Escape XPR ship. Welcome to episode Flux. Episode Flux is the first of 3 episodic updates to Citizen Sleeper telling the story of the refugee flotilla which has arrived at the Eye. Completing the action above will begin that story, but be aware that it is intended for late gameplay. Head to www.citizensleeper.com to find out more. Alright. So, I need supply jewels? This is a repeatable action. Eshe asks you to bring supplies and fragrant, eye-grown jewel caps. Seems like the perfect things to impress her. And of course, that's the one thing I don't have. Shoot. Okay. So I guess we will leave that alone for right now. And I guess I'm gonna have to wait. I think I planted some here. Or I can reap some from here. I guess in the meantime, I'm just gonna have to get some grove spores or something. So, Let me go ahead and do this in the meantime, and I will come back as soon as I get some of those caps. So, be back in a second. Alright, so that was actually a lot easier than I thought. I forgot there's this little fungus thing right here where you can forage for it. And since I had some perfect dice, then that worked out pretty well. I think I only needed 2, so let's go on back up here and continue onward, shall we? Roll caps 2. Let's start the action. Eshe sees you coming up the broken spoke and waves you into the cavernous bay of the climbing briar. You came. Peak smiles as you walk into the climbing briar's cargo hold behind a gloomy Eshe. They brought mushrooms. Eshe tosses the mushroom caps onto a crate, raising her eyebrows at Peak. Peak gives her a look. Thank you, Sleeper. They pick one up and sniff at it. Are these edible? Yes. Peak turns the cap over in their fingers before putting it down. We're not so used to fresh produce. Eshe is securing crates as she speaks and doesn't look up. Hawthorne doesn't have much in the way of farming. Hawthorne? The insulation we grew up on. Eshe wipes off her hands on a rag. XPR loves to name their property after natural things, but that's about as far as their relationship with plant life goes. XPR? This is an interrogation, she glares. Either way, we are done with that place, which is all you need to know. Eshe leans back against the crate she was securing. We're going to need more than a few mushrooms if we want to help those refugees, though. What do they need? Food, water, components, a whole lot of things. Eshe stands and walks over to the mushrooms you brought, placing them into a small container with care. The problem isn't getting supplies, it's getting them through to the ships. Well, considering how our relationship went with Havenage, probably shouldn't say this, so can't you just fly around? And get the Briar seized for breaching quarantine? No thanks, she laughs. We were lucky we got here before the cordon was set up. That's the only reason we're on this side. Why is there a quarantine? Peak jumps in. The Eye has a closed-loop life support system, just like an orbital installation. Any unfamiliar illness or significantly increased strain on life support could cause a cascading collapse in its systems. Eshe scoffs. Are we making excuses for these bureaucrats now? Peak turns. We're being realistic, Eshe. But these people aren't an increased strain. They are living people, Eshe stares at you. Even calling them refugees is just a way of turning a lot of scared, desperate people into a single monolithic group. Eshe slides the container full of mushrooms into one of the cargo hold's rack. Look, as much as I'd like to chat, we've still got a lot of space to fill in this hole, so if you're going to help... I think Eshe is trying to say we need your help, and quickly, Peak says, glancing at her. The refugees behind the cordon, they won't be able to hold out indefinitely. We need to get supplies to them in the next 12 cycles, or... Eshe steps forward. Or Havenage will have to bear the responsibility for whatever happens next. What can I do? There's 3 things we still need to secure. Water, food, and scrap components for ship repairs. Eshe gestures to the storage containers around the hold. Water we can find a way to source, or, my preference, just siphon off from the underground reservoirs in the Greenway. Peak raises their eyebrows. Eshe. She ignores them. For food, things could be tricky. Those mushrooms are delicious, I'm sure, but no way we can get enough volume to feed a flotilla. However, I saw an algae stack on the way over. If we can get access... No more stealing, Eshe, Peak sighs. I didn't say steal, she stares at them indignantly. If we can get access, we can work the stack, harvest some algae from the flotilla. Those stacks churn out vast quantities in short timescales. And the repair components, Peak asks tentatively. Eshe smiles. Just look around you, Peak. This whole place is made of scrap. She shoots you a glance. And I'm sure the Sleeper has their sources. They can bring them right here. That's actually true, because I think there's a little thing right down there. We get everything before time runs out. Perfect. We get most of it? Also good. Either way, in 12 cycles, I'm going to take what I have and go. But how will you get through? Eshe shoulders a container. I thought I'd leave that up to you, Beak. They flinch. Are you serious? Eshe, I know we said we would help the flotilla, but at what point? They stop, take a breath. Take this seriously, Eshe. I don't know the first thing about breaching a quarantine cordon. Maybe not, Eshe looks at you, but they might. They slipped out from an SNR facility, didn't they? Plus, they've been here longer than us. You're always trying to get me to find help. Well, here it is. She gestures at you. Help. Pete glances between the two of you. I swear to... They sigh. I need to think this one through. Meet me at the cordon in a couple of cycles, Sleeper. Maybe we can figure something out. Meanwhile, as she meets your eye, you can help me acquire the supplies discreetly. She smiles. We have to keep this quiet, keep Havenage out of the loop. Once they get suspicious, this is over for all of us. This all suddenly seems a little too real, too dangerous. You've only just found your feet on the eye. This is not a time for causing trouble. Come find us. We'll be out there trying to pull this all together. Eshe goes to the back of the hold to start packing another container. Peek, come help me. Peek glances back at her. Sleeper, look. We didn't choose this either. They lower their voice. Help us finish this. We've set up a base camp on the broken spoke. You're welcome to rest there in any of the cots while we work on this, they smile. We're in this together. Peek, Eshe shouts, and they walk back into the hole to help with the container. As you leave the climbing briar, you look out at the broken edge of the eye's ring, where Havenage cordon blinks with the tiny red lights. What are you getting yourself into? That is a good question. What am I getting myself into? So, it seems I have a new home. I can inject stabilizers, I can self-repair, of course, and I can do the sunbathing. Okay, this kind of threw me off because I was like, what in the world is this? I don't think this has changed any. Let's see. So, let's leave. Let's see what we got here. Scrap for the flotilla. I can do all of that. Briar's Hole. The flotilla needs food, water, components. You might not be able to get all of them, but Eshe will take what you can get. All the supplies in the world are nothing without a plan to get them to the flotilla. That's peak part of this. Okay. Are you going to take all 8 at once? Yes, you are. Okay, so that's done. That's it. These components should be enough to cover most of the basic repairs the flotilla needs. You hope. You look over the pile of scrap components lying in the briar. You look around. The bay is empty. Eshe and Peek either elsewhere on the station or on the bridge a couple of levels up. You begin sorting through the pile, separating out useful components and boxing them by use. You don't recognize everything you find, but before long, you get into the rhythm of sorting. As you do, your mind starts to drift, your attention being drawn into the dark corners of the bay. The briar is in surprisingly good condition, considering that Hawthorne and XBR must have been operating it for decades by now. The marks of care are everywhere, from the delicate patch jobs, polished to meld into the original finish, or the carefully bound wiring running through custom trunking. Eshe loves this ship, that much is clear. Something catches your eye in one of the dark corners, a matte black stack of crates you hadn't spotted before. They are sleek and compact, tucked away behind some of the bigger, more worn containers. Let's investigate. You put the components away and go over the sleek crates. You run your hands across their textured surface, but there's little hint of what lies inside in the opaque metallic casing. Then you see it, a yellow symbol, embossed onto the far side of the crate, a universal sigil used by spacers, corporations, and manufacturers alike. It's one you've seen throughout your time as a sleeper. Its meaning all too familiar. Explosive contents. You hear a hiss and Eshe comes up through the bay's lock. She barely registers your presence, nodding at you as she passes. Sleeper. She busies herself with some tasks at the back of the bay. Ask about the crates. Eshe doesn't turn around from whatever she's busy with. Just more supplies, Sleeper. Like everything else here. Why do I not believe you? You can't think of anything else to ask, but since that the atmosphere has now somehow shifted, you quickly finish up the sorting and slip out, waving goodbye to her back as you do. Ma'am, are you trying to blow something up? Okay. So is there nothing I can do for the meantime? So how does this work? I've got that one done. Peaks plan, all the supplies in the world and nothing without. So I guess, oh, okay, so we have to wait for peak next. And that's gonna be 3 turns, probably. The algae stack. Okay. The algae stack is controlled by a small collective of farmers. If you want to use it, you'll need to persuade them. Well, it just so happens that I have some lovely dice here. So, let's see how much this will give me. Okay, so with these 3, that should do everything I need. Alright, and last but not least. Okay, you and Eshe roll up your sleeves and help with tank cycling. As you do, you speak to the farmers about the refugees. Okay. So, what did that'll give me next? Harvest algae. This will do the food for the flotilla thing. Accelerate growth. The algae in the stack grows at a regular rate, but with some careful feed adjustments and water cycling, you can improve your yield per cycle. Okay. Algae growth. The algae takes time to grow. Each cycle, more can be harvested from the stack. Patience is required. Okay, so this is going to be a nice little dance we have to do. Reservoir S3, water storage and processing. Okay. Same thing. But I'm going to have to be careful because there's a Havenage alert thing. Hack sensors. The reservoir is monitored by a web of sensors. Hacking them will reduce the alert level of the system and keep you from getting locked out. Oh, okay, so I'm going to have to go back and forth with this. Interesting. Siphon water. The only way for Eshe to get enough water together is to siphon it directly from the station's reservoirs. Havenage will not be pleased. And of course, that'll give me water for the flotilla. Okay, interesting. This is going to be interesting. Okay. So, I guess since I've used up all my dices, let me go ahead and go back. Because of course I have to feed the stray. Just can't not feed the stray. I've done so a few times. I do find it funny that I have a 20% discount now because of my traits. Let's go ahead and do that. Also, let me get some food. That almost screwed me. So I think I can get food here, right? I kind of don't want to cook these because this might come in handy at some point, but sure, why not? Okay, and that makes me full. And now we can rest and on to the next cycle. Hopefully I'll get some good dice, but I can re-roll, so there's that. Okay, that's not bad actually, and since I have a +2 in most, that's actually really good. So let's go on ahead and head back. And again, I'm going to completely ignore what was going on up there. I don't think it'll be an issue, so yeah. Okay. So this will give me +2 for food for the flotilla, the -1 algae growth. So Mm, can I go ahead and do this now? Oh, let's not do that one. Oh, crap. I didn't mean to back all the way out. Let us do this one. It's either going to be positive or neutral. So let me put it over here instead. Nope, not you. So let's do that. Okay. So maybe I should go ahead and do this first. You managed to perfect a phosphorus-rich feed cocktail that massively boosts the algae growth rate. The other farmers are impressed. Okay. So what does that mean exactly? I'm guessing that's going to help out over here. So let's try it. Okay. It also makes me want to help out over here too. So let me siphon the water, but then also let me hack the sensors to see if see what that'll do. Oh, okay. So with it being perfect, it's not going to bother it at all. Whereas I'm guessing if that wasn't the case, then yeah. But that kind of sucks that that's only going to go down 1 point at a time. I've recently encountered that with another mission earlier in the game with my mechanist playthrough. So, So yeah, let's just go ahead and harvest the algae. Hopefully we can go ahead and knock this out soon, since that's going to give me 2. Right? Yep, that'll give me 2. So in the next turn, hopefully I can go ahead, do some more algae growth, and maybe I can knock this out. So let's go ahead and head on back. We'll feed the stray, get some food, and that will be all. What is this? Emphis. Emphis is preparing the Matsutake caps. He cleans them carefully with a damp cloth before shaving the stalks as if he was sharpening a pencil. His knife slides through them, revealing the bright white of the flesh within. These are good, sleeper. Very good, he says without looking up. I bartered with Minji for some kelp too, so we can brew the dashi. You know Minji? Emphis looks up from cutting with a smile. Everyone knows Minji. Emphis slides the sliced matsutake mushrooms to one side and takes out a closed pan. He opens the lid and you see the green water of kelp sitting in a bath of water. The green wafer of kelp, excuse me. Been soaking it since last cycle, Emphis explains. Should be good to warm now. He places the pan over the burner and turns it on low. We'll have some time now. He wipes his hands clean and throws the cloth over his shoulder. However, there's one difference this cycle, he smiles. You've been the one providing the ingredients, so it's my turn to provide a story. Okay. Good. This story is important to me. He gestures for you to both sit on the folding stools behind the stall. You see these? Emphis runs a hand over his forearm, tracing the circular scars that mark them like perfect bite marks. Conway called it an anchored interface rig, a mechanical control device for piloting a heavy-duty extraction suit in low-G industrial operations. We called it a bone suit. He points to a pattern of larger circles on his shoulder. They drill in and anchor it here, then all the way down the arm. He taps each scar on the way. It maps mechanical movements to the suit exactly. A 1-to-1 mechanical replication. You swing your arm, a 2-ton arm swings too. You should have seen the recruitment vids. Strong people in even stronger suits, tearing through stone and scrap. Superheroes. Half my graduating year signed up. From company school to company shuttle. Conway, from birth to death. He stares off into the distance for a moment, fighting with the memories. But the bone suits weren't good. The rate of failures were high, and failures meant arms torn off, anchors torn out, broken bones, bad stuff. So after a while, Conway discontinued them. No longer competitive, they said. He checks the broth, turning down the heat and adding the mushrooms. So there we were, hundreds of us with surgical alterations for suits that didn't work. They sent us home, back to that company colony they spat us out, to be cleaners, drivers, and cooks. They gave us drugs for the pain and told us to make something of ourselves. When I deserted, bribing some passing spacers to take me into orbit, there were only me and a couple of others left. The rest just faded away. Arthritis, osteoporosis. They folded in on themselves like paper lanterns. That was my generation. The anchor points still ache, still burn. He touches the scars. But what burns worst is the betrayal. I've been on the eye a long time now, but that will never fade. Not that, and not the faces of my friends. Emphis reaches over and sprinkles a handful of leaves into the broth. It's ready. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. I will not let their story die, and as long as I'm telling it, it will remain. Emphis pours the broth into a double-walled metal bowl and hands it to you. The heat radiates through your hands, and the smell drifts up, rich and sharp, like a pine forest after the rain. You drink the broth slowly, chewing the matutake and thinking. Emphis busies himself with cleaning the pans in the bowl, sealing the kelp back up for another day. Then he quietly comes to sit with you while you finish your meal. Neither of you speak, preferring instead to let the story linger in the air a little longer. It is not that there is nothing to say, it is that sometimes in the moments after something, speaking breaks the spell. So you both idle, eager to be in each other's company. Emphis taking longer over his cleaning, his packing, and you savoring the final dregs of broth. When you're finally finished and hand him the bowl, you feel the spell break, and the story leaves you both. And as you leave, you know that both of you are somehow a little more empty and a little more full than before. Huh. And I got an achievement for that, Story Eater. So that was a nice story. We learned a little bit more about his backstory. Very interesting. And that's one thing I really like about this game, is those little stories like that. It also kind of reminds me of when I used to work in the plants, and as time went along, there were more complex machines to do our jobs. So of course, jobs were lost, the need for certain people was gone and stuff like that. So, and of course the dangers in working with certain instruments was lessened. So I do have plenty of scars on my arm and everything else in between, from burns and cuts and everything you can possibly imagine from that job. But, of course, there's also the memories too of when I worked there, because I worked in that industry for a long time. So I think I worked in plants for about 10 years, 11 years, 12 years. It's been a while. So pretty much ever since I got out of school. Okay, so these aren't the best dice, but they're not terrible dice, because again, most of these are +2s. So except for these ones, and I'll probably end up re-rolling those, it's not a terrible situation to be in at all. So you're still pretty good on stabilizers. I'm probably going to have to use some of this scrap so I can turn around and heal myself a little bit. Again, it's not as impactful as it once was, but it's still going to help. So let's see here. The algae stack, that gives me 2 now. So let's go ahead and use this. Start the action. Gives me 2. And I guess I'll use this. Yeah, that'll be a 50-50, so hopefully this will turn out well. Ah, dang it. Okay, so do I want to re-roll all 3 of these, or do I want to use this 2 for right here? I think I will do this. Okay. Are you gonna give me 2 or 1? Alright, you're just gonna give me 1. And I lost some energy. Great. Okay, that's not horrible. Oh, wait. Why is the action unavailable? Crap. So I guess I can use this over here then. And that opens it back up? Is that what you're saying to me there? Sure. So I guess it had to be at least 2. Alright. Hopefully I can get past this and this will be successful. Please don't kill me. Okay, so that completed that. I got the +2. And yeah. So now we have food for the flotilla. You're leaning against the metal crates you just loaded up with algae, packed and dried into bright green pucks. Eshe hops into one beside you, flexing her aching back. Is this enough? Eshe squints at you as if you've just interrupted her train of thought. It's a look you've become familiar with. It doesn't matter either way. This is what we've got, she sighs, rubbing the back of her neck. In these past cycles, working the algae stack with Eshe, you've had little insight into her mind. She rarely seems happy to start a conversation, but is always eager to end one. Despite this, you feel like something has grown between you, and something like silent trust, the kind that tends to seed itself in the fertile soil of hard but necessary work. There's something I've been meaning to ask. Eshe raises her head cautiously. Go on. Why help the flotilla? Sure, I do want to know more about XPR, but sure. Why help the flotilla? Eshe pauses, her protective instinct fighting with the trust you've built. You can see her begin to shrug the question off, then she stops, rethinks, sighs. What you need to understand, Sleeper, is that Erlen's Eye wasn't the only place where the Solheim collapse happened. Sure, Hawthorne, where we grew up, was an XPR installation, but that didn't screen it from Solheim going under. Actually, Solheim was the only reason XPR were ever here. She pauses, hesitant to get into the whole story, but wanting to offer something. She flinches, correcting herself. They are a service corps, you understand? They set up outposts and surrogate systems like this to offer refueling, logistics, and maintenance services to bigger companies with extraction contracts. She gestures to the eye around her, like Solheim. When Solheim went bust, XPR lost their client, and Hawthorne, well, we lost everything. We became an outpost tasked with just holding on. Keep the refueling platforms running, they said. Keep the outposts stable. Hold on to our claim. She rubs at her head, as if recalling all this was somehow physically painful. Do you know what it's like to spend your entire life in a place with no future? Yes, I do, unfortunately. A place that exists only to hold a legal claim to a piece of territory, to shore up breach of contract negotiations between two corporations. It's like living in a she searches for the word, her eyes jumping back and forth. In a grave. She clenches her hands. So if you're looking for the answer to why questions, that's your answer. We, Peak, and I know what it's like to be forgotten, to be locked out. She stares hard at the side of the stack, the algae whirling against the glass in beautiful patterns, and she doesn't look away. The silence extends, and you realize the conversation is over. Eshe seems angry, not at you, but with herself, for even voicing such ideas. After a while, you stand and start to load the crates into the powered cargo trolley that Eshe will run back to the Briar. As you do, try to catch her eye, but she avoids it, soothing herself instead with the comforting simplicity of physical work. Interesting. So, the area where she lived also went up. So yes, Earl and I wasn't the only place that suffered, as these things tend to happen. Kind of reminds me of my hometown again, Tuscaloosa. So, you know, we have the Mercedes plant there, and if anything ever happened to that plant, my God, would it screw people. Okay, so I don't have any actual thingies to use. I can barter for food. The farming collective who control the stacks don't like to sell their food piecemeal, but for the right price, they'll let it go. This is a repeatable action too. I do have quite a bit of coin, but I guess I could. Let's see how much that actually heals me. It heals me a little bit, not a whole lot. I'm also going to use some of this scrap to kind of heal myself because I'm stable, but this next cycle is going to take me down a peg, and I need all the pegs I can get. So the next thing we have to do is water, which is going to be a bit risky, and it's going to be a bit back and forth, and it's also going to take a while, so I'm going to need every single one of these to use. But for the meantime, we have a straight feed. Out of curiosity, though, are they still waiting for me up here, or are they gone? Because it looks like they're still waiting for me up here. Yeah. Ankita wants it all out. So yeah, I could still do this if I really wanted to. I'm not going to do that, but if I wanted to, it is an option. So that's nice to know. There's always something that I worry about in games like this. Like, I know you want to create the sense of, you know, there's, you know, you have to do things in a timely manner and so on and so forth. But sometimes it's just like, I kind of want to experience some of the stories. And since it's already kind of hard to access the saves and stuff, yeah. Kind of makes things a little hard sometimes. So, all right, I need scrap to repair myself. How much is it going to do? Yep, just one. Okay, but that's enough to heal me proper. And one more. And that'll give me full health. Okay. So we fed the stray. I don't need to use my stabilizer. Probably won't actually need to use my stabilizer in the entirety of this DLC. So that's actually pretty good. And let's go ahead. Wait, complete active scenes. I have more active scenes. Okay. Also, do I have an upgrade? Yep, I do have an upgrade. So what active scenes do I have? I don't see anything over here. So obviously it's got to be up there. Here maybe? No? Or did I just look at something wrong? Maybe I just looked at something wrong. Or maybe that's a bug, perhaps? Complete active scenes. Like, what do you mean here? I don't see any active scenes. Flotilla aid. Well, let me try sleeping somewhere else. Maybe that'll help. Do I still have that? Yeah. Huh. Says the same thing. Alright, give me a second while I figure this out. I'm pretty sure I'm just being stupid. but give me a second. Ah, okay, here we are. Jesus, I was wondering where it was, but it was all the way up here. I guess just the last time I was up here, I didn't roll my mouse all the way up here. So this is peak. Is that a spider kind of symbol? It's interesting. Sleeper. Peak catches your attention from the shadowy corner they were leaning against. Any trouble getting up here? This place is huge. It certainly is. Haven't it been busy? Come, take a look at this. They beckon you over to a nearby window which looks across the ruined ring to the blinking red lights of the Havenedge cordon. The cordon's temporary structures, a net of metal struts meant to detect and dissuade any ship from entering or leaving the flotilla, jut out the black. And all around the tugs flit, securing them in place, tending to the red blinking drones that demark the quarantine. It's an impressive and worrying sight. What do you think? Peak interrupts your thoughts. How would you get through? Just go for it, hard and fast. That sounds like a bad idea. I would probably use one of the tugs, maybe? As an escort, you mean? I doubt we could fit all the supplies on one of those tugs, but if it seemed like the Briar was being officially escorted through the cordon, Peak squints at the red lights. But then we'd be stuck inside. Peak turns away from the window and rubs their forehead. Eshe has really wrapped us up in something here, hasn't she? The question is spoken under their breath, and they don't seem to expect an answer. The silence grows. Let me see. Why are you helping the flotilla? Peak looks up. You don't think it's a worthy cause? They pause. We ran into them when we escaped Hawthorne. Eshe insists that we investigate their distress signal. I'm not saying we shouldn't have. Peak stares out the window at the distant blinking lights of the arrived ships. It's just... Peak brushes back their hair. Forget it. Let's focus on the plan. They flash you an easy smile. It doesn't matter why. We are the ones who are going to help them. The way I see it, there are 3 parts to making it through the cordon. They gesture out the window at the strange structure. Deception, distraction, and speed. We'll need all of them for a clean passage through. Deception means tricking the cordon security into thinking that we are meant to be there. Maybe a tug escort would work. Anything that makes the Briar look official. Distraction, meanwhile, will be all about diverting attention so that no one looks too hard at what the Briar is doing. If we can create a gap in the cordon scanning and deterrent systems, that should keep them busy. Finally, speed will mean making sure the Briar is ready to roll. Perhaps we can do a little work on the ship to get her ready. Eshe surely wouldn't mind. They lean back from the window. How does that sound? Sounds good. Good to hear. Peak looks down at their slate. 10 cycles left. They glance out the window at the cordon nervously. 10 cycles to gather the supplies and to prep this plan. It's tight. Very tight. Peak looks at you. If this goes wrong, Peak sighs. Just get out, okay? They squeeze your shoulder. I'll follow Eshe anywhere. But you don't need to get dragged down with us. It won't come to that. Peak brightens up a little. Of course, but just keep it in mind. Let's get to it, Peak stretches. I'll tell Eshe about the improvements to the Briar and the rest. Let's explore the cordon as best we can and look for openings. Peak smiles. I have no idea what guardian angel sent you to us, Sleeper. Peak smiles, but I'm very glad they did. Oh, that was sweet. So I have another drive, and this drive is breaking quarantine. Peak will need you to scope out and execute a safe path through the cordon for Eshe. So it's a lot of stuff that got to get done in 10 cycles. Okay, intercept comms, blend in with the crew. That one doesn't seem as intensive as the stuff for the water, so I really need to focus on the water stuff. Okay, I still only have 1 upgrade point, which is fine, but I do need to do something about that. Okay. So let's go ahead and go to sleep now, since I'm assuming that's the only thing I had to worry about. Yep, end the cycle. And because I have memory of a fruit fly, let's go ahead and feed the stray. Alright, and end the cycle. Yeah, this is going to be kind of tough. I'm not actually sure if I can complete this. Because 10 cycles seem like a long time, but that's really not, since there's the one with only one each time. This might be a little tight. So I think what I'll do, to be on the safe side, I think I'll go ahead and try these. Let me try one of these dice to see if that's going to give me +2 or something. That gives me more intel, so let's try this one. Okay, so it is +2 each time. Cool. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these two. I kind of want to use one of those, but I want to use this one. So I'm going to go back down to the water, use these two on the water, even though I know it's the perfect dice. It doesn't really benefit me that much, but I won't get hurt or anything. So, and I won't actually set off the sensors. So let's just go ahead and use these two, and then I'm going to re-roll after that, and hopefully I'll get something good. That sucks. That just really sucks. Okay, now re-roll. Got a perfect dice. So that actually played out pretty well. And let's go back up here and use this perfect dice. Really wouldn't matter where I use that in this particular case, but I'll use this so I can complete this. And intel. Alright, so that's completed now. You tap into a broadcast detailing the order of operations for new crews assigned to the cordon. This is exactly what you need. Okay, so that gives me 2 other places. The crew canteen, having a suspicion, pub escort. So I can either convince a crew. With division rife among the tug crews, gaining support for a supply shipment will just be a case of picking the right crew and approaching them discreetly. Okay, and that will go into tug escort, which is a crew willing to escort the Briar through the quarantine will give the ship a better chance of passing the cordon without any trouble. And then there's deflect suspicion, which will get this down. Taking hardline attitudes, loudly arguing in favor of the quarantine, making friends with security, there are ways to deflect suspicion. Okay, so that just brings that down if it starts going up, if there are mistakes. The next thing we have over here is cordon operations. Sabotage the sensors. Some careful sabotage to the cordon's systems should create a sensor gap that will allow the Briar to bypass the automatic quarantine systems. Okay. This does blind spot. Creating a blind spot in the cordon's perimeters will give the Briar a better chance of evading detection when Eshe makes her run. Okay. And then, of course, there's a having edge suspicion as well. And then last but not least, there's a having edge hanger. Slice thrusters. This is plus for the Briar upgrade. The tugs have a powerful suite of ion thrusters for rapid maneuvering. If you can sneak in and slice some off, you'll have a significant upgrade for the Briar. Briar upgrade. The kind of thrusters the tugs use will give the Briar improved maneuvering, useful in the cramped quarters of the flotilla. And then, of course, there's the having edge suspicion too. Okay, I want to knock out the water next, though, because I think a lot of those are 2 or 1, and they're actually not that many, from what I remember. Let me check that out again. Yeah, that's 1. That's going to be tough. Okay, so these are all one. And it's also going to cost me money, too. That sucks. And that's one as well. So all these are one. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm guessing all of these are 6 as well. That's going to be a little. Yeah, this is going to be a little tight. This is going to be a little tight, but it is doable, I think. It does help that I'm in a really good position as far as what I actually have on me. So let us go ahead and feed the stray. Do I need to eat? Well, I guess it wouldn't hurt. Let's see. Yeah, let's go ahead and eat. Okay. And of course, as always, we will dream of having great dice. So let's end the cycle. Oh, those are great. That's lovely. Okay. So we will siphon off some water. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 dice. So this actually might go ahead and let us knock this out this turn. Let's see. Yeah, this should be enough to go ahead and knock this out this turn. Yeah, because everything is going to be a perfect roll. Yeah, I was actually pretty worried about this, but this is going to be a perfect roll, so it should not be a problem. That also means that, in theory, I guess the other ones could be pretty easy too, but I'm going to need some very good dice each time. So I'm going to have to keep my health up and everything. Alright, so we've siphoned the water. You find an outlet valve behind a web of sensors. Delicately, you begin filling a tank. Eshe gives you a thumbs up. This is working. Okay. Tucked into a service corridor deep below the reservoir, Eshe is double checking the seals on the water tanks loaded onto the motorized trolley. Though you are far enough away from any thoroughfares not to worry about being overheard, you both still speak in hushed tones. I'm just gonna say all good. Eshe nods silently and hits the ignition on the trolley to start it moving. You take the other side of the trolley and walk it up the wide service corridor with its flickering lights and Solheim detritus. You doubt it gets used by Havitage, at least that's the hope. You glance across at Eshe, her face a mask of determination as she guides the trolley along. Maybe some conversation will make this journey go a little easier. How did you meet Peak? Eshe pauses, a little surprised by your question. She glances back down the tunnel, but in this deserted passage she can hardly keep up the pretense of silence. We grew up together, she answers quickly and turns back to the trolley, but she can tell you are expecting her to add more. I actually wasn't expecting that. She seems to gather herself for an answer, not wanting to ignore you, but trying instead to get her answer straight in her head. Our outpost, Hawthorne, it's not an easy place to grow up. The administrators keep a tight hold of everything. She rolls her eyes. Even though they are trapped in the same decaying insulation as everyone else. Peak, she pauses. Peak found it harder than most. She pauses again, judging her words. I stepped in to help them out. Silence descends again, but you can feel the wheels turning in Eshe's mind as the creaking wheels of the trolley take you along the corridor. Peak isn't the most practical of people. They used to be, well, they needed someone to teach them to look after themselves, stand up for themselves. That was me. She smiles. After that, I couldn't get rid of them. Eshe stops talking, but you see her eyes have lit up, and you imagine she is recalling some moment or other from her in Peak's past. You both reach a wide bulkhead doorway and have to stop to shimmy the trolley over the edge. When you're done, Ashley turns to you. I'm good from here. Head back. And with that, she's gone, moving off into the dark tunnel ahead. You watch her go and then turn around and walk the distance back to the staircase you entered from, the tunnel humming around you as you do. As you walk, you try to piece together Eshe's past, but all you have are glimpses of a person she once was. She seems to prefer it that way. Alright, so we got another upgrade point. That gives me 2. I guess I'll go ahead and buy this now. Sure, why not? I wonder if I get an achievement for having everything maxed out. So if I get 2 more upgrade points, I can go ahead and max this out. I'm assuming in theory, if I finish all this stuff, maybe I'll have 2 points. At the very least, I have 1, so there's that. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and stop it right here. And then the next episode, we'll start working on the rest of this stuff. The cordon operations, the crew canteen, and the Habitat hangar. I don't think there's anything else in this DLC as far as some of the characters that have already existed. But if that's the case, we'll check it out. So if you like the video, like the video. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe. I have a lot of things on the channel, and I have many other things planned in the future. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I will get to it as soon as possible. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.